Hello everyone. In today's video, I'll be ranking all weapons in Last Corridor depending on how much I like to use them and how effective I think they are in combat. The stick, in my opinion, is one of the best early support weapons you can get in the game. Being able to buff your teammates' damage and defense is a really strong ability. Even if you're new to the game, the stick is just really easy to use for anyone. The weapon just essentially boils down to buff your teammates and debuff Sands until you win the round. Because of how easy the stick is to use for newcomers and how strong the weapon surprisingly is, I'll be putting this at B tier. For our next weapon, we have the toy knife. For me, the toy knife might be the funnest weapon in the game if you know how to use it. With the having to do a rhythm mechanic, which gives you speed boost and more damage, as well as a sort of like TP meter if you land enough moves, which can then be used to enhance your other moves, letting you dash up to like 3 times with the E ability. And if you press the R ability, you can get a giant shield that just takes like, what, 20-40 damage, I forgot how much it was. But either way, it's a tank weapon, we can move really fast and deal a good amount of damage in a short time. For me, this weapon definitely belongs in A tier, just because how strong the weapon is, but it's kind of like a sleeper pick, you know what I mean? And for our next weapon, we have tough gloves, which after the recent rework, doesn't really feel the same at all. Instead of flying around, uppercutting and everything, you can't just run in a straight line and then just die, really. The weapon might be good if you didn't just slide whenever you try to turn while running, but other than that, the score breaker kind of passive it has is alright. Doesn't really feel worth though, because you gotta hit them like a total of 10 times, or you can use your abilities, but you still have to hit them at least 5 times before you do that. So for me, this weapon definitely belongs in like C tier after the rework. It's kind of sad. Would have been like an A, because the old version was really good. For our next weapon, with the ballet shoes. The ballet shoes, in my opinion, are definitely an S tier, just because of how useful you can be when using that weapon. The reason why this weapon is an S tier is because you can go insanely fast and just dodge everything, like no matter what. Because if you're running at like 3 times the average speed, Sans is never going to hit you with anything unless it's like a melee attack, but even then you can just juke him. And then you have a spin move where you go even faster and still deal damage. And then you have multiple like drop kicky moves that you can move stack together and deal like an insane amount of damage in a split second. For our next weapon, we have the burnt pan. Now the burnt pan, in my opinion, is an insanely good healing item. Like the amount of healing you can do with this item is actually just ridiculous. The only problem I have with it is when I'm trying to M1 the Sands and my teammate's also in there because he's using some sort of rushdown weapon, I keep hitting him with my healing because he's in the way, so I miss Sands. And I've now just wasted one of my healing to do like what, 3 health on my teammate when I could use it as an AoE heal instead. But overall, being able to cleanse KR, especially in like tough matchups like, I don't know, Fell Sands or anyone else that has a high amount of like karma damage or debuffs like Blue Soul, the burnt pan is just amazing. And for our next weapon, we have the torn notebook. In my opinion, this is yet another sleeper pick, just like the toy knife, except a bit more people actually use it than the toy knife. I feel like not many people really want to learn the weapon just because there's so many controls. But once you actually learn the weapon, it's not really all that much. It's like 2 of them are just for cycling between the upgrades, and there's like 5 upgrades total. And being able to buff your teammates with any buff possible is so diverse for versing whoever. Like if you're versing a Papyrus character who has high health, just max out damage. If you're versing a Sans character who has a lot of stam, like Insanity, Waterfall Dust, or like actually I'm out of people that I know that have high stam, that's really about it. Then you can like just win the round 10 times faster against those characters. And for our next weapon, we have the empty gun. And the empty gun, in my opinion, the weapon's alright. I mean, it's got a long hitbox, but it's not like an actual ranged weapon, because that'd just, be unfair if you could just spam that from afar. But it does have an infinitely stacking damage buff depending on how many shots you hit before missing. So if you actually have good aim, or decent aim, because the hitbox is quite thin, actually, then you'll be rewarded with about, I don't know, over 100 damage per shot. And you can use Q to just empty your entire mag. So, it's a lot of damage you can do. But unfortunately, the other 2 moves that are actually on the weapon aren't very impactful, like the lasso, just pulling the Sands. Which, if they are playing like a campy sort of character, like Distrust Sands, or like Story Shift Kara, and they just sit in the corner, then it can be quite useful. But normally after you lasso them, they'll just like walk back into the corner, and you still can't do anything against that. And the roll just gives you 1 bullet back, which isn't really all that impactful, but it is a free dash, so I'll take it. As I'm putting this weapon probably around in between these 2 weapons. For our next weapon, we have the spear. Spear, in my eyes, it's also the right weapon. Not many people use it either, and not many people use it properly. Like, I don't think I've seen one person dash with the spear towards me, because they just don't know they can press the button again after you land it on the sands. And the other abilities are alright, like tunneling underground, which most people think that you can just avoid damage when you're underground, but you can't, so it's kind of like useless. But when you do pop out the ground, there's a giant AoE, like AoE, but it only really deals one hit of damage, so it's not like all that impactful when you just like, I don't know, run up to them and just left click them. Speaking of, you can move stack the gash ability, which just lets you hit twice, and if Sans is under 10% health or stamina, you just slam him to the ground and he's like stunned for 10 years. So it's an easy kill. This weapon's definitely probably not too high on the list, to be fair. And for our next weapon, we have the Worn Dagger. Now, the Worn Dagger is just like the Torn Notebook, except kind of a rushdown weapon. Like, yeah, you can heal with the weapon, you can gain resistances with the Kindness and Perseverance souls. I feel like most people use the Worn Dagger just for its free slide ability and its movement abilities like Bravery, Justice, Integrity, all that. I feel like most people underuse the Patience ability as well. Being able to just land a strong move on a Sans and then just walk to wherever you feel like if it's a camping character and you somehow land that move on them, you can just pull them straight to the middle of the map if you just keep walking and they can't do anything about it, except for walk back after they get pulled. But by then they might even die, so it's a pretty good overall weapon. I'm gonna have to put it in low A. For our next weapon we have the Trident. In my opinion, I feel like the Trident isn't a really good weapon. Like, it does decent damage, it has a slow swing speed, which can actually be helpful sometimes if they try to juke you. And the extra health is also nice, having 120 health instead of 92 makes you a lot more tankier. But I feel like every ability with the Trident just kind of stinks. Like having to spam Q while fighting to place fireballs gets really annoying really quick. And being able to send them to one point doesn't really make throwing a lot useful until you land it on yourself and get a bunch of like fire stacks from it. But even then, you're just taking damage over time. So if you just get pushed back, you then have to waste your other move to turn them into regen stacks, which, you know, kind of makes it a waste of time. But I feel like sometimes it is really good for zoning. Like if you just place a wall of fireballs, they can't really leave like one side of the map, can they? And if they try to, you can just detonate them all at once. Or if you're like, you know, a rushdown type of player, you can just send them all on yourself and then rush them down. In my opinion though, it's definitely a C tier, but it's definitely a lot better than the Tough Gloves. For our next weapon we have the Backbone, and in my opinion, Backbone might be one of the best support weapons in the game, just because of how useful you can be with it. You can block damage for your teammates, you can give them overhealth, you can give them 50% resistance. You can basically just make your teammate immortal and they can just run at Sans and just won't die. Because not only are they being hit with overhealth, and they have resistances, you can also block in front of them all at the same time, so that Sans can literally not deal a single hit of damage to them. And if you block enough damage that their shield actually breaks, you get a heal from it, which is just ridiculous. This weapon definitely needs to be nerfed, and I'm pretty sure it is being nerfed in the casino update actually. So thank God. Yeah, this weapon's definitely top of the list. For our next weapon we have the Real Knife. Now the Real Knife is a pretty decent weapon, but I feel like there's just so many better versions of the weapon you can choose. Like, it's a rushdown weapon, but the only rushdown you have is your E move and your Q sometimes. Like, if the Sans can't push you back or like hold his ground, then the Q move is very good for just spam attacking until they eventually die. But if they have like a TP, a Force, some Bone Walls, or anything like that, then the Q move never really sees any like, you know, gameplay, except for enhancing your other moves, which are alright. But the slash move doesn't really do much. It just gets one hit, like, and that's if you land it, which you probably will if you use the full charge one, knowing it spreads out like all the map. But I don't really see any Sanses getting hit by like the lacerations left behind, because it's obviously bright red and scary, so they just avoid it, which does make it kind of a zoning weapon, but there's just better zoning weapons like the Trident or like the gun. You can just force them into a corner. But being able to heal with your E does sometimes come in handy. Only sometimes though, because it's not a lot. It's if you take damage, you heal it back after you use it, which means you have to take damage in the first place, and you probably don't want to do that. Other than that, it's kind of alright. I'll probably put it like high B tier, probably behind the gun. For our next weapon we have the Fresh Bat. Now I do like this weapon. I use it a decent bit, but then again, there's just so many rushdown weapons you could be using instead of this one. Like, you just run Killer Knife, and, you know, dash at them, hit them, do all that stuff for them. With the Fresh Bat, you gotta wait for the freshness immunity to max if you want to stun them. And if you mistime the like freshest bar being at max by even the tiniest bit, it will just reset the entire cooldown back to 0 and not stun them. But having an invisible dash is pretty good, especially if you pair it with like bravery, so you can just launch cross map and just be like oppressive the entire game. And the Furby Bomb, it is a good zoning tool, but that's only if you let it stay on the ground, because if you detonate it, the hitbox is like 2 times smaller, but if you just let it like tick down to 0, it's enormous and it deals like a lot of damage. But I don't know, I just have like bad aim with like the home run ability, because I cannot aim that like bomb for anything actually. I think my hit rate with hitting the bomb is probably like 20%, not even, so I just leave it on the floor until it explodes. But another fun combo was playing Patience with the fresh bat and just flying over them, caging them, and then just placing a bomb at the bottom, because it's undodgeable for them and they can't even get away, because if you just dash in and place the Patience barrier on yourself, there's not much time to react at all. Especially if they're already sitting in a corner, they're probably going to get hit by it anyways. Probably one of like the alright rush down weapons, definitely better than just like, you know, the real knife, but probably never going to get much better than that.